Hi, this is Emerald and welcome to the Diamond Net, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to induce sleep paralysis, also called the vibrational state, to assist you in out-of-body experience, or also called astral projection. Alright, so this particular video I'm going to film in two parts because I think, there are two main stages that you have to focus on when it comes to trying to astral project or have an out-of-body experience, which I'll use interchangeably throughout the episode because, it's basically the same thing, but there are some subtle differences. But for our purposes, when I refer to astral projection and out-of-body experience, I mean the same exact thing. Alright, so basically, in order to get to have an out-of-body experience, what you have to do is you have to get sleep paralysis first. This is also called the vibrational stage. So this video is going to be all about how to get into the state of sleep paralysis, and then I'm going to make a later video about how to actually get out of your body, and there are plenty of techniques for that. But I'll go ahead and I'll save that for another video, so this video is a little bit easier to manage. Plus, this is something that you're going to want to practice with, because the more often you can get sleep paralysis, the more practice you can get in trying to have an out-of-body experience. Alright, so one thing I wanted to mention first is that, there are plenty of places on the internet where you can go to find things to help you have out-of-body experiences or to try astral projection. They have binaural beats and they have all sorts of different little tutorials. And what I notice is that every time I do them, I'm not very successful. Now this is saying something because I've been getting sleep paralysis and out-of-body experiences ever since I was 13 years old. And so I would think if anybody this is going to affect in a positive way, or if anyone's going to be able to induce it, it's somebody who already gets it. So what I've noticed is that if I try to do the method that's most often recommended, which is where you just kind of lay there and you basically try to trick your body into believing it's asleep, and then you can then get to the sleep paralysis that way. I've had zero success with that. I just kind of lay there and nothing ever happens. And I've heard the same thing from a lot of different people that they've had that experience. And actually, I think that this has a lot to do with the way our brain waves work when we are in the sleep cycle. Because sometimes, I'll have sleep paralysis happen to me once or twice a week, or occasionally, if it's really low, I'll only get it once or twice a month or so. But it just seems like I wake up a lot, and when I wake up, that's when I'm in sleep paralysis, whether I want to be there or not. And so since I've been unsuccessful in that way, I wanted to kind of look into the science behind what happens, when you're actually in sleep paralysis and how that relates to the sleep cycle. And what I find is that it would make sense if you wouldn't be able to reach sleep paralysis if you weren't already asleep. And so I actually recommend trying to wake yourself up during the stage of sleep where you're experiencing sleep paralysis anyway. So contrary to what a lot of people think, you actually hit sleep paralysis every night anyway. Even if you've never consciously had sleep paralysis, you have it 5 times a night. Every time you hit the REM cycle of sleep, where you're dreaming, the brain basically kicks into high gear and says, oh hey, this person's asleep, this person's dreaming, let's release glycine and GABA. And so what those two chemicals do is it basically keeps your muscles paralyzed so that you don't get up and act out your dreams. And it would kind of seem to me like maybe somebody who sleepwalks maybe has a bit of a deficiency in these chemicals. And so if you want to hit waking sleep paralysis, you have to be awake, but you have to convince your body that it's asleep so that it releases those same chemicals and keeps you paralyzed. And then when you hear the vibrations, that's actually your body getting into a particular wave frequency. So for example, in waking life, most of the time what you're experiencing is beta waves. In REM sleep, what you're experiencing is a mix of beta waves, alpha waves, and desynchronous waves. So it's somewhat similar to the waking state, but it's also similar to the relaxed state And so it's kind of like you're trying to hit that like Goldilocks zone right between asleep and awake to get waking sleep paralysis. And ironically, even though REM sleep is the most similar to the waking state, it's actually harder to arouse a person during this state, which would make sense why most people don't hit sleep paralysis. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show you guys a chart of what the sleep cycle looks like. And my thought is that if you can wake yourself up during the REM stage of sleep and then try the same method where you're keeping yourself very still, that you can end up experiencing sleep paralysis, which will give you it's kind of like the gateway to having an out-of-body experience. All right, so you'll notice that the REM stage only occurs about 20 to 25% of the night. It looks like in this sleep cycle, there's 4 times that REM gets hit. Now, sometimes if you sleep a little longer, you might hit a 5th REM cycle, but most of the time you see these 4 cycles. So I want you to take a look at the awake section and where your sleep just begins, right at the 0 mark. Let's say you're trying the method where you're just trying to lay there and trying to induce sleep paralysis that way. Well, you'll notice that almost immediately, as soon as you fall asleep, you go pretty quickly down into the deeper levels of sleep. Now, the deeper levels of sleep, like stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, those things won't allow you to hit sleep paralysis. Those are theta and delta waves. They're much slower moving. What you want to do is you want to get to the stage 1 REM sleep where it's the shallowest level. So if you notice, if you try to get there from being immediately awake and down into that state, you're going to almost certainly miss your mark. There's only like a very short little divot of time that you have actually in that area of sleep. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to sleep until you hit your 1st, 2nd, or probably 3rd REM cycle. Now, I would probably recommend 2nd or 3rd because you want to have some rest during when you get to the sleep paralysis state, because otherwise you're not going to be rested enough to actually get up, and if you do get up, you're not going to remember probably. All right, so looks like you can hit your REM cycles at around 90 minutes, 160 minutes, 270 minutes, and about 360 minutes into sleep. So you might want to set your timer for a little bit before or a little bit after 90 minutes. I've seen some sources that say REM sleep occurs from 70 to 90 minutes, and I've seen some that say that it starts right at 90 minutes. And basically, that's about how long the interval for the sleep cycle is. So about every 90 minutes, you have another REM sleep cycle. So once your alarm's gone off and you've woken yourself up, you're going to want to make sure that you don't move around at all. You're just going to want to lay there, maybe even lay toward your back, and then chances are that's going to be your best opportunity to kind of fall back into REM sleep, but to keep your consciousness. So that's the thing. You want to keep your mind conscious while the rest of your body falls into REM state. And I do believe that this is why you hear those vibrational sounds, because on a normal basis, I think that they're just a little bit too high pitched to hear, because beta waves move very, very fast, which means they're very, very high pitched waves. But when you fall down into sleep, you start to have some alpha waves and those desynchronous waves, and those seem to be a little bit deeper, and therefore we hear them a little bit more. And that's what I would wager, and I'm not sure about this, that's what I would wager the reason is that you hear those vibrations, because it's your body sort of shifting frequency and your brain waves sort of going all over your body, because your brain waves don't just stay in your brain, they actually kind of wave over your body. Like if you've ever meditated when you were tired before, you'll notice you kind of get alert. It's because sleep waves are going over your body. All right, so long story short, the idea is to wake yourself up during the REM cycle and then kind of consciously drift your way slightly back down into it. Because the idea is you wake yourself up during that REM cycle, you're not going to be too far away from it, and you can still keep yourself conscious but fall back asleep in your body. Also, stay tuned for the second installment of this video where I'll teach you all about what to do once you hit the vibrational stage. Once you've mastered sleep paralysis, once you're able to hit that, there's a whole completely different process to do after the fact. Now, I have another video on my channel all about sleep paralysis and out-of-body experience too, and you can maybe glean some snippets off of that too. Go ahead, check back in my videos for that if you're interested. So on that note, happy travels. And that's all I have for you today. And until next time, keep becoming more you.